Hey guys, welcome to the Liberal Hive Mind, a channel solely focused on exposing the abundant hypocrisy of the left. You know, I don't know if leftist media will ever be able to exist or thrive truly. Over the last decade or so, we've witnessed basically the total collapse of leftist mainstream media and their credibility. And since then, there's been a considerable shift. The mainstream outlets are losing, they're pretty much dying off, and everything's now moving independent. But very quickly, it feels as if we're already witnessing the, in real time, total collapse of the credibility of the independent outlets on the left as well. It's just a non-stop grift machine. You know, I've spoken about Midas Touch recently. There's two outlets. I think they're actually affiliated in some manner. There's Midas Touch and then Brian Tyler Cohen. And these are the two biggest leftist channels. They've had huge spikes in the Trump era. And everybody's talking about it as if it's a good thing. The left is building their grassroots independent media world. But it's just such a grift. First of all, I think it's totally corporate backed. And secondly, just look at the content. Every single video is clickbait around Donald Trump. Donald Trump had the worst day ever. Donald Trump takes massive L on the world stage. One after another. None of this is happening, by the way. That's really where they're losing their credibility. It's just a grifter model attempting to bank off Trump derangement syndrome. This is their independent media grassroots movement. Midas Touch and Brian Tyler Cohen have essentially set the model, and now it's being simply blindly followed and mimicked by the likes of Harry Sisson, Luke Beasley, Adam Mockler, and the rest of this copycat crew. No matter what happens in the world, good, bad, neutral, just spin it as yet again another Trump disaster. It's just so incredibly brain dead, tasteless, and embarrassing. And I think the whole thing is going to end up collapsing because it's built on bad faith, just like the mainstream media model was. These people are becoming a punchline, and the latest grift on this India-Pakistan debacle I think really proves my point. Harry Sisson and the rest of these clowns just look absolutely awful. Let me show you guys exactly what I mean by that. We got some stuff to get into, so let's roll the tape. Oh boy, oh boy. So these lefter griftist content goblins just keep embarrassing themselves. And it's gotten to the point where it's so clear that they're just trying to bank off Trump derangement syndrome that situations like this are arising where it feels as if they're actively rooting for international conflict just so they could get a cheap dunk on Donald Trump. So we all know what's going on in India and Pakistan. They're trading blows at their shared border. And the second that kicked off the other day, Harry Sisson comes out and says this: India and Pakistan are attacking each other. This conflict is restarted once again while Trump is president. Will MAGA blame Trump for the war like they blame Biden for any conflict that existed under him? It's just so embarrassing. I mean, first off, Harry, do us all a favor and especially yourself a favor and sit this one out, please. Just let the grown-ups talk for once. What this guy's saying is so dumb, it's almost impressive how dumb it is. He's making it seem as if MAGA just blamed any conflict on Joe Biden just because it happened under him. No, dummy. Let's talk about the Ukraine-Russia conflict. I seem to remember Kamala Harris literally flying over to Europe and then publicly stating that Ukraine will join NATO right before the invasion. The Biden administration was engaging in warmongering idiocy. So obviously there's a little bit of difference between the connections we made there and our involvement in that region compared to what's going on in India and Pakistan that we have absolutely nothing to do with, and Donald Trump clearly has no involvement in. And also, here's another thing. When there was conflict happening for 4 years, raging under the Biden administration and the Obama administration, and even Bush and many other presidents, we've seen very little effort from past presidents to de-escalate, to deal in diplomacy. No, it seems a lot of the times it's about escalating the conflict and sabotaging diplomacy. Just like when Boris Johnson and Joe Biden sabotaged peace talks between Ukraine and Russia back in, I think, late 2021, maybe possibly early 2022, right at the start of the conflict. Meanwhile, the Trump administration, 48 hours after this conflict kicked off, the Trump administration is staying up all night negotiating a ceasefire. Donald J. Trump posts on Truth Social, after a long night of talks mediated by the United States, I am pleased to announce that India and Pakistan have agreed to a full and immediate ceasefire. Congratulations to both countries on using common sense and great intelligence. Thank you for your attention to this matter.
I was just talking to a source who was literally in the room where it happened, where Secretary of State Marco Rubio, I was told, played a massive role in bringing about this ceasefire, a ceasefire that on multiple times today and even yesterday, because it was in the works yesterday, perhaps over the last 48 hours, as we've been reporting, Pakistan was sort of on a military pause to give a window for diplomacy.
And what we now understand from the Secretary of State Marco Rubio is that actually there's been a day of intensive negotiations involving him and J.D. Vance speaking to the leadership and the military leaders on both sides of the divide in India and Pakistan, finally getting them to talk and to agree to step back from the brink. Now, there's going to be more talks to finalise this ceasefire, but you know, it seems that for the moment, the threat of a spiralling, escalating conflict between these two countries, India and Pakistan, thankfully has receded.
So the Trump administration and Marco Rubio come in and get both governments to agree to a ceasefire. Again, further differentiating this administration from the previous. But as we know, when you're mediating conflict like this, there's a lot of nuance, there's a lot of difficulty to actually get the job done. Ceasefires generally, or the end of conflicts, can take years to negotiate, especially if the conflict is more mature. And so now we have a situation where it seems as though Pakistan has violated the ceasefire. And instantly, the leftist grifters come in to try to undermine the Trump administration and their clear good work on this issue. Harry Sisson tweets, "Let me get this straight. Trump said he negotiated a ceasefire between Pakistan and India. India then said the US didn't play a role whatsoever. Now just 4 hours after the agreement, the ceasefire was violated by both sides in the Kashmir province. Oh, so much for the art of the deal." The smug idiocy is just too much to handle. First off, from what we understand, the ceasefire was negotiated between both governments, and it was violated by the Pakistan military, which seems to have gone rogue and broken the terms. Again, this stuff is messy, it's complicated, but according to these leftoids, these absolute grifters, it's always black and white. And it's just yet again another failure by Donald Trump. This is not commentary, it's not journalism. This is an ignorant child who has absolutely no idea how the world works, being paid to just constantly spin everything as a negative against the Trump administration. This happens in ceasefire negotiations all the time. But the point is, you try, you pressure, you re-engage, you use diplomacy, you use force if absolutely necessary. And the Trump administration is doing all of that. They're involved, not in the way that previous administrations would be involved. Let's kick the conflict off and escalate the situation so we could sell weapons and munitions to both sides. No, the Trump administration is trying to put an end to the conflict almost immediately. They're there to step on the fire, and this clown, who's American, well, I mean, I think he was born in Singapore if I'm not mistaken, but still, an American citizen who claims to be a patriot, seems to be fully willing to cheer on and egg on international conflict as long as it means he gets to present Donald Trump in a negative light. It is the most despicable grift I think I've ever witnessed. It's almost as if these people are rooting for America to fail under Donald Trump just so they can personally capitalize or their political party can absorb the benefit on the flip side. It's a cult of Trump derangement syndrome, negativity, obsession. What Donald Trump is doing is objectively good. He's not failing. At least they're engaging in diplomacy. At least they have, on paper, a ceasefire. It's better than nothing. And now things got a little bit difficult, and so it's time to try to figure out how to rein in the rogue Pakistani military. That's the next issue to tackle. At least we're moving forward. But if you listen to these clowns, it's once again proof of the failure of Donald Trump in the art of the deal. I don't know about you guys, but if this is the leftist, independent media empire that's being built, it's going to implode within itself, especially when Donald Trump is no longer on the scene. You know, it's just not the same as the actual grassroots independent movement that happened naturally on the right. There's something predatory, there's something sinister and dishonest about what's happening on the left, and I think most people are smart enough to see through it. Just pay attention and read the comments, see how people interact with these Harry Sisson posts and the rest of these leftist actors and grifters. It all comes off as so disingenuous, and I have a feeling it's gonna backfire big time. Anyways, that's pretty much what I got for you guys on this one. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. If you did, make sure to leave a like and possibly subscribe. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.